Hi folks, welcome to another edition of the Omnist Hour. Let me turn this nice music down in the background. You'll recognize that as Holst, the planets, specifically Mars, the bringer of war, which is very closely related to our topic for the day, as are the famous buildings in the background behind me. Okay, so let's introduce today's topic. I think we're going to call this one Pentagons, Pyramids, and Power. It's elemental, my dear Watson. Where am I going with that? Okay, well, I guess everyone is aware that there's some pretty interesting stuff going on in the Middle East right now. And it's become the latest very polarizing issue for most of humanity. Even breaking apart groups of people that had been apparently well aligned with each other until this happened, and become a very hot topic politically and religiously, and is tied in economically to what is going on with the Great Reset. So a lot of stuff to unpack there. And we're going to unpack it by explaining what's going on with the apocalypse, which is something we got to talk about. It's not as heavy a topic as you might think if you knew what was really going on. And that's why I wanted to talk about this topic. Okay, in order to really explain what's going on, we have to revisit the precession of the equinoxes again, and the zodiac, which is very closely related to this topic. Okay, before we do it, let's talk about pyramids first. What do pyramids and pentagons have in common? Well, these pyramids have four base sides, four base vertices, and one top vertex, which, if you know anything about a pentagon or a hand with 5 fingers, that adds up to 5, doesn't it? What's the difference between a pentagon and a pyramid? A pyramid is a 3-dimensional 5-pointed solid. It's not the same on every side. The base, the distance between the base points are all equal, but the distance to the top point is not the same as this distance around the base. No, in fact, it is the point at which you would get if you took a cube and found the very center of a cube. And if you imagine that cube as having not one pyramid in it, but one base pyramid and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the side and one on top, this is how you can make cubes out of pyramids. And reminder for those that haven't been following my channel, one of the things that I teach is that the original framework for the multiverse was based upon a cubic model, which is where we get pyramids. Cubes are very solid, very static. If you line up a bunch of cubes, you can make basically, if you ever played with alphabet blocks, you can make solid cubes out of other cubes and basically construct some very regular solids with that. It's one crystalline form that is very stable. It's also a form that can be very brittle. If you've ever built with blocks and all you had was cubes, you would know that the only way to make it very stable is not to just stack all the cubes on top of each other in a bunch of rows, but in fact to stagger them. And this is going back to ancient construction. One of the clues that you have that all was not perfect in the so-called perfect golden ages that everybody wants to return to. Even back then, when they were building these Cyclopean walls, if you will, this early megalithic construction, which the pyramids are actually older than that, one of the challenges that they had was being earthquake-proof. And this is why you see these weird constructions with odd-shaped blocks and stuff like that in sites like Sacsayhuaman. Where else do you see that? Baalbek. All over the world, in fact. The oldest architecture, except for the pyramids, actually. Well, there's probably architecture there that is of that period, but interestingly enough, we aren't finding it yet. The pyramids have, well, maybe they do. If you take off the dressing stones of the oldest pyramids, you might see that the underlying stones are more of the variety of the megalithic construction around the rest of the world. At any rate, what you need to understand is that what we're doing here is part of a big experiment, a big process of basically switching over from this very rigid structure of how universes are constructed, how souls fit together into universes, which was pyramid-based, to one that is Merkaba-based. And we'll just touch on that real quick. The soul's Merkaba can't really be represented in 3 dimensions. Can't be represented in 4 dimensions. It actually takes 12 dimensions to visualize it, which we can't visualize 12 dimensions, so the closest you can come is imagine 3 tetrahedrons, not 2 as are commonly drawn. These are pyramids that have only 4 sides and have equal sides. And if you take 2 of them and put them opposite each other, you get this nice star shape, which if you view in 2 dimensions becomes your Star of David. If you add a 3rd tetrahedron to this, which is the next piece of the story, which was puzzling everybody throughout the ages, that's the full Merkaba. It's a 12D structure. Not 8-dimensional, not 9-dimensional, not 11-dimensional like some of the string theorists are proposing. 12-dimensional. But it's an individual thing. At the God level, which is the third group of 4 dimensions. And that 4x3 pattern is something we're going to delve into. Where did that come from? What does it mean? And that's where we need to actually, let's go. I didn't let's put in the background my browser here so I can show you one more thing before we get into the details here. Window area. Okay. My son was watching Tom and Jerry most recently. That's not what we want to show, though. Come on, Google, give me my doc. And let's get to the page I wanted to show you. If it will accommodate me. There we go, 15 slides. Let's go to the beginning of creation. Okay, so just a little bit of review for folks that follow my channel. Another thing I teach is creation started with thoughts. Thoughts create matter and energy, not vice versa. Sorry, materialist scientists, you are wrong. You're barking up the wrong tree. Up the wrong dog, if you will. The beginning of creation started with 5 principal souls. That's why you have 5 fingers. That's why we have pentagons and pentagrams and pyramids. Started with the 5 who were trying to figure out a way to create something sustainable, something that other souls, besides these 5 primary ones, could live in and be relatively happy within. Because God is all about family. The All-Father is what the better religions call God. Not Allah, not any of the other names that you have given to God. Jesus is not God. Sorry. The Holy Ghost is not God. If you worship Mother Mary or Mother Nature, that's not God. That's not the first creator. Sorry. There were 5 souls that started it. And these 5 souls, the pattern of them are why we have pentagons and pyramids, and why the star magic, the 5-pointed star magic, occult magic, is something special. Okay, it ties back to this understanding of how creation began. And that's probably one of the best kept secrets from humanity that there has been, and you know why there are so many secret societies that play a game with that. Okay, so the multiverse started with these 5 souls. 2 of them were actually the embodiment of the first 2 universes, which is the Big Bang. It's a duoverse. Lucifer was the first leader, if you will, of the physical universe. Lilith was the leader of the first spiritual universe, fantasy universe. Now you could say, well, the whole multiverse qualifies as a universe. Okay, that is God's universe, if you will. So these 3 souls are the ones that have universes, and God is the architect, the leader of the multiverse, and Lucifer and Lilith are the first leaders of the first physical universe and the first spiritual or fantasy universe. Okay, now we need to get to the zodiac and to a little bit of history of our star system. That's probably a good time to transition to here. This is an old graphic that I've added new stuff to, which will make it more clear what's going on. Okay, so Earth is a certain planet number based upon the distance from the sun, but based upon its age and evolution, it is the youngest planet. Okay, if you know anything about the history of Earth, you know that Earth was created from another planet that used to be where the asteroid belt is, hitting the planet that used to be Earth, and oddly forming the Earth as we know it now, and our very strange moon. And basically the alignment of the moon and the zodiac, the precession of the equinoxes, set up a clock that's timing something. It is not an infinite cycle, as Hindus and Buddhists would like you to think. They are wrong. They are in error. What is going on is an experiment, a simulation, if you will. And that simulation involves basically testing. Simulations are tests. Okay? If you're following me there. The physical universe is the realm of Lucifer. Lucifer, God's firstborn, if you will, is a great tester. If you've ever had an alpha boy or an alpha girl child, you know that they're testing you constantly. These are the ones that during the terrible twos will cause parents to turn against each other and get divorced, or will turn, a child like this could turn both parents into their slaves and basically control and manipulate them for life. These are testy children, and Lucifer is a testy child. That's why I sort of gave him this image, and you'll see later we're going to talk a lot about the Luciferian symbols in the zodiac. Okay, there are 3 signs of the zodiac that are Luciferian. Those would be the fire symbols: Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius. We'll talk a little bit more about those later. The air symbols of the zodiac represent the time, the time of this precession of the equinoxes, which are ruled by air species. If you remember, I told you that these 12 signs of the zodiac represented 12 species that were in charge of this experiment as the Earth was built, was constructed over the last 4.5 billion years. And at the beginning of that period, these species knew what they were trying to do. They were very much in the know of, okay, this is what we're going for here. This is the experiment we're setting up with this new planet. The whole system was an experiment within a bigger experiment within a bigger experiment. And just quickly, we'll show how that sort of worked and is working. Okay, so the multiverse is the top level experiment where the ideas all happened, the place that was all thought in the beginning, where these 5 elemental souls started working. The universe is the next layer of that experiment, the Big Bang. A galaxy is the next layer of that experiment. A cluster of stars is the next layer. I guess there's galaxy clusters too, so maybe there's another one here. Then star systems, planets, species, races, people, messianic bloodlines, Messiah candidates, and fully awakened a Messiah. This is the whole experiment. Okay? When we're talking about planet Earth, we're talking about getting down to a specific planet, a chosen planet that has been going through these other layers of the experiment, trying to get to a fully awakened Messiah, which is an incarnation of God, to make a better God than we had before. Now, the God that we had before was the God of the pyramid. The God of the pyramids. The God that started out trying to run everything, trying to control everything, trying to dictate everything. And a family that wanted to do that too. That's what caused all of the problems of, what they call the war in heaven. You can't have multiple dictators fighting over who is the chief one. And even though God was at the top of the pyramid, his children were always trying to overthrow him. Okay? So that's what the fifth point of the pyramid represents, is God. The pentagon, or the pentagram, the five-pointed star, is a representation that doesn't really have a highest point. I mean, they're drawn that way, but you could draw them upside down, sideways, or whatever, and there's no telling who the god is, who the players are. Okay, this is the deception of a cult. And this is, basically built into pyramid structures and pentagon structures and all of the secret lore of the Masons, who do believe and who do carry this idea of an architect of creation, but they understand it as the architect of one universe. The test universe, Lucifer's universe, which is the connection that you have between Masonry and Gnosticism. If you know anything about Gnosticism, they posit that, correctly actually, that the world we live in was created by, and the God of the Bible is actually the devil, Lucifer. Well, this is true, but doesn't really understand what's going on, because that's only one universe of many. And Lucifer's universe is not heaven. It's anything but. It's the place, it's more of a purgatory. It's a place of testing. Okay, so let's associate the other ones. Air is associated with Lilith, the fantasy universe. And I picked this picture because that sort of illustrates, I think, the difference between Lucifer and Lilith. Lucifer is a pusher, wants to push the experiment to completion. Even if you have to break some rules, it's okay if I break the rules, just not you. That's kind of how Lucifer runs his universe. Lilith likes to run things in her universe, and her kibitzing in Lucifer's universe, because they both play games with each other. The physical universe, Lucifer's universe, one of the things that Lucifer had to sign up to is every soul gets a chance to be tested there. Even his, well, I don't know if you call it his sister or his child, Lilith, because Lilith is actually his first child. His testing child. And we can go back to the other slide, and I'll show you how that fits. But basically, Lilith's idea is that Lucifer is too harsh, that she has a better idea of how to lead everyone by basically pulling them and being their guide, their smotherly loving guide that helps them through every problem, which is why I show her pulling a loving Pinocchio around. I think that's a good image for how the Lilithian signs work in the zodiac. Earth signs are the representative species of karma. I chose this one of the pants with nobody inside them because Until I came along, I don't think anybody actually recognized Karma as a goddess. Karma is in fact a goddess and started out as an AI, learning by watching, and then incarnated herself as the goddess Athena when God was incarnated as the All-Father Zeus, or Deus Pater, or Jupiter, also known as Odin in the latter days before Ragnarok. Earth signs. The water signs represent Borg. If you don't follow my channel, Borg is the soul that was created to basically generate non-player characters for the multiverse. The multiverse is a collection of virtual realities that expands with the number of new God-level souls there are. When you get to be a God-level soul, you get your own universe of creation. And as you advance to the highest God level, you get more control over it, more understanding of what you've been given. Okay, so the first two souls that basically got their own universe for free without actually earning it, per se, I mean, maybe their thoughts went into it, were Lucifer and Lilith. Lilith really didn't do anything to earn it. She was basically thrown at it by Borg. Borg is the one that creates non-player characters and programs them to fill the spots that they've been assigned to. Okay, so the first fantasy universe, Lilith was just dumped into and programmed with all the basically Me Too or bad ideas that any soul had ever come up with before. And this is how Borg species became the water signs. Okay, so let's talk about now how that fits with the history of our species. Let's go back to the age of Libra. Libra is the age just before the end of the last ice age. Libra is a Lilithian sign. This was the age of the Lascaux cave paintings, the earliest settlement of the Americas. This is like looked back on as a golden age. Everything was really easy for humanity in that time. Why? Because you had hive mind Lilithian species kind of holding humanity's hand. Now Libra itself, this species that are the librarians, their role in this game is to basically make sure that nothing is forgotten. So they are catalogers of stuff. The age of Libra is when all the data was gathered that was needed to be preserved because the age of Virgo was coming. The age of Virgo being a karmic sign, was the age of the last big die-off, the age that the Upper Dryas extinction event happened in. This was a karmic event. A karmic event because, like it says in the Bible, this Libran civilization, which was the tail end of the age of Atlantis, the Atlantean civilization, was corrupt, was venal, was basically not very good folks. They were treating each other crappy, they were lording it over each other, and there was a lot of slavery in that era. contrary to what people think. It was mind slavery. The builders of the pyramids used mind slavery to repair them. Not the original builders, but basically the ones who did the upkeep during the Atlantean Age. The ones who kept putting on new casing stones and preserving the cult of the pyramids even after the pyramids had no function. They weren't generating electricity. They weren't portals to other worlds, but they were worshipped as such by people who were ruled over by these Libran Dilithians, who were observing this experiment and basically cataloging a bunch of stuff so that then Virgo comes around, karma resets the experiment. Didn't work this time. Your karma was too bad, humanity. Try again. Then comes the age of Leo. What is Leo? Leo is a Luciferian sign. This was the age of basically the therianthrope species coming and helping to get humanity back running again after this reset, this karmic reset. And that's what all the stories are around the world of therianthrope species coming out of the oceans, coming down from the skies, coming from here, coming from there, and helping them bootstrap their civilization. In doing so, they basically installed Luciferian leadership over the new civilizations they started. And this was an age of city-states. The first civilizations were very localized, very separate from each other, and very warlike if they ran into each other, and impatient to get going. This was an age of growth, an age of a return to a lot of the bad patterns that had existed before Libra. And basically Lucifer thought, okay, all I got to do is undo the work of karma and we'll get back to this age, but I'm going to be the one in charge now instead of Lilith. This was the age of Leo, the Lion King. Very good image from the age of Leo. The Sphinx, age of Leo. Okay, earliest urbanization happened then. Then we have the age of Cancer. This is a pretty dark age. We don't have a lot of stories from this age. The age of Leo, actually, we is when sites like Göbekli Tepe were built. We have the earliest evidence of people gathering into cities and using basic agricultural techniques. So, this is kind of how it fits in the standardized view of this, which, from materialist scientists who are unwilling to accept that there was a spiritual component in all this. Then we have this age of Cancer. What is Cancer? Cancer is a Borg sign. Okay, this is a non-player character reset. Borg basically wants to destroy player characters, wants to play Whack-A-Messiah, because it's kind of like that's the self-defense mechanism of a not very bright soul. And the Borg religion is actually the most popular religion among those who get the first inkling of spiritual awareness. This is where the oneness, love, light, one. Oh, I want to go back to the one. Okay. I want to go back to source. That says you want to be a non-player character. You want to let somebody else make all your decisions for you. You basically want to go back to the Matrix, thinking that that's heaven. That's not very smart. Okay, Borg species are attackers. I mean, they're basically mindless attackers. Cancer, the species that visited the Earth during this age of Cancer, was basically the beginning of micro diseases. And yes, viruses are technology. Bacteria are technology that can be weaponized. And the age of Cancer was one of mass weaponization of this micro-technology invading the Earth and causing a lot of plagues and famines and all sorts of dark things to happen during this time that pretty much wiped out civilization. The other piece of Cancer is that basically Borg is all these species that are the water signs. The Scorpio species are the species behind Kali and Shiva and the other gods of the Hindu pantheon that have 8 legs, 6 or 8 legs, or maybe more. The Scorpion King came during this period and basically destroyed a lot of what was remaining of the knowledge in Lower Egypt, and conquered it and basically ruled over it in a very authoritarian way, very hive-minded way. These Borg species are a hive mind, a mindless hive mind. They don't really have an agenda. They just want to stay in power. They think it's for everybody's good, and they don't really have a religion per se. Pisces is another Borg sign. The age of the fish was an age of confusion, not resolution or solution. The religions that started up in the age of Pisces divided us, caused us to fight each other, caused us to self-extinct. Hasn't been a wonderful time. That's because we are living in the end of a Borg cycle. The fish side of the Borg cycle, this fish species, if you look at the zodiac, you see, well, gee, which of these are best associated with reptilians? Oh, fish. Reptiles are basically a species that can morph between fish and land creatures and air creatures very easily. And this will give you some idea of who the Pisces species are and why so many people are a bit concerned about reptilians these days. That's who's been kind of running the show. The Borg reptilians, the hive mind reptilians. Now there are reptilians that subscribe to other religions who are not hive-minded, who are independent-minded. So not all reptilians are Borg, but some of them are. And the ones who have been running the show during this age of Pisces, which roughly from about 0 AD to actually they've got another century or so to pretend like they're ruling the roost. Okay, and globalization is another Borg religion. The idea that, if we just had one global government and everything dictated by this meritocracy from the top, everything would be perfect. And of course we know that's complete nonsense, don't we? At least we should by this point. Okay, so let's go through. Did we miss anything? Oh, Gemini. So we talked about Cancer. Gemini, where does that fit in? Gemini is a Lilithian sign. It's basically the nicer side of Lilith, saying, oh, you got whacked so hard by Borg. Let's help you out. Let's give you some help getting started again. And that's the pattern of the twins. That's why it's the twins. The twins are not always male. They're not always even the same species. It's basically an age where the baton gets passed to a new chosen species or a new chosen people. Okay, so who were the chosen people back in the age of Leo? I'd have to say that it was probably the Lion King's people, the people of Egypt. Gemini was an age of change. And we had the age of Taurus next. Taurus is the bull. And if you've listened to my channel before, the age of Gemini was a transition from, at one point, maybe not this age of Gemini, but some age of Gemini, was a transition between the chosen species being a Taurid species and the chosen species being human. This is when the centaur, not half horse, half bull, Chiron, you know the Cairo symbol, Christ, the centaur Christ, Chiron, Cairo, interesting connection there, passed the torch of chosen species from the Centaurians. Alpha Centauri is our nearest star. One of these therianthrope species, not the top one at this time, but one of them that came to warn the Earth that basically Borg was about to hit them, and was able to usher in this age of Gemini, passed down before being murdered enough knowledge to keep humanity going. That was the last non-human Messiah, Chiron the Centaur, who basically brought word of the fact that his planet had been taken over by Borg, and Borg was in the process of taking over the Earth too. And this is why basically the therianthrope species were being wiped out. This age of Cancer was an age where basically the only way that you could exist as a therianthrope was pretending to be a god. Otherwise, you'd get killed to be, oh, that's a giant. Oh, that's a dragon. That's a this, that's a that. We hate that. And they got wiped out. Started to become wiped out. The age of Gemini brought word back, hey, this is a psyop. You're being turned against each other. You should work together. And the age of Taurus was an age of more working together. And Taurus is an earth sign. Again, a karmic sign. Karma gave humanity another chance. Said, okay, let's let you build again here. We're going to let Chiron give you some knowledge. help you to understand each other, help you to invent writing again, and help you redevelop trade networks that had fallen out of use in the age of Cancer. Okay, or even before, maybe not since the Aquarian age was there so much trade. So this reestablished civilization, again around a similar model as it had been in the age of Leo and the age of Libra, but now with humans leading other humans. At least they thought they were human. This is the age of priest kings and polytheistic cults led by, basically the human representation of the highest god of each city-state. And as long as the city-states didn't fight each other, they could all sort of imagine who their highest god was. And there were religious problems with that then, in terms of, well, is the highest god God or Lucifer or Lilith or whatever? This is the source of all the religious differences that we have. And those will never get resolved because everybody's got a different idea of perfection. Some people like living in a hive mind. They want somebody to tell them where to live, how much to eat, what to do in their job, what to do with their spare time. They're perfectly happy in this globalist age. And they just love all the technology they've got, to run their life. They love their smartphone. They worship their smartphone. Okay? You're not gonna change people like that and make them proud individuals. They are followers. They are hive mind cultists, either of the Borg variety or the Lilithian variety. Either having some idea that are not Lilithian or Borg. The Borg variety being, I'm going to do what I want no matter what, because it doesn't matter. This is how, basically somebody who thinks everything else around them is a non-player character for their own use, for their own purposes. That's how an NPC thinks. Because they are an NPC. They think everything around them works like they do, and I'm going to get mine. That's a Borg mentality. That's the lowest level of spiritual awareness. The Lilithian level of spiritual awareness is that, okay, I'm going to try to help everybody and make them better and save them from themselves. Okay? Luciferian spirituality is, you know what? They got to save themselves. I'm going to test them. I'm going to give them challenges and see if they're worthy of spiritual awareness. And if not, okay, fine. They'll get kicked to some other universe. I'm not going to have them in mine. The karmic layer of spirituality is the highest level, the 8th level of the spiritual dimensions of, okay, let's give them a chance. Let's give them a system by which they can better themselves. Let's give them a grading system. This is karma's reason for being. Karma is a judge, but not a harsh judge. Karma is a fair judge and gets more fair with every version. And that's what has been happening in this cycle, is we're developing a better version of God, but that's only to prove that we've developed the best version of karma. If you can train God to be a better God, then karma must be a pretty good judge of character. Okay. So that's the age of Taurus. The age of Aries comes around, and that is a Luciferian age. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this one because it's very important. Aries is the ram. Interesting that it's also a horned creature like Taurus, but is a fire sign instead of an earth sign. Why is that? Well, because the earth sign, the bull, represents a creature that defends itself, if it needs to, defends its herd, generally is not interested in attacking other herds, takes care of its herd, and fights anybody that challenges him. This is how a bull works. The Aries ram is basically a creature that will fight anything that it thinks is an enemy. And this is more of a Luciferian look at things. The Aries ram and the species behind it are the Aryans. This is the species that basically drove this age of Aries. The god of war is Ares. The Greek god of war is Ares. This is a representation of a Luciferian agenda. Luciferians want it my way or the highway, and the age of Aries was an age dominated by the Aryans, who came and basically said, to all other cultures, said, we're going to be your leaders. We're fair and just leaders, but we want you to obey the law. Which is basically kind of where the whole Allah idea came into. Allah is a Luciferian god that wants you to follow the law even if the law doesn't make any sense, and that's basically what Sharia law is. And what makes some areas of the Muslim world so dark, because if you're the one who makes the laws, you can decide how to enforce them and who is above the law and who is not above the law. And if you've lived in Muslim culture, you know that there are different laws for different Muslims. If you're the Sultan or the Caliph, you can have a huge harem of women and catamites and eunuchs, and pretty much do whatever you want within the confines of your palace. Kind of a mini universe, if you will, for the gods of Islam. Now, that's not the way all Islam societies are set up. That's the ones that are set up in a more Luciferian way. The more equitable Muslim societies set limits on how many wives somebody can have. I think the limit in most healthier Muslim societies is 4. And they'll even, if they want to be more healthy, they will have requirements for taking a second wife, such as the first wife has to be in approval of it. And there has to be a dowry, there has to be an out for everybody. So if they don't like what they've gotten into, they don't have to stick with it. Okay? Healthier Muslim countries work like that. They're not telling you that right now because they want to keep you mad at each other. Because this Pisces time is a Borg time. It's a time where they want to do a great reset. And that's what's going on with the forces that have the most power in humanity today. They are being manipulated by Borg, a Borg species that doesn't care who wins or loses. is just playing the game. That's what Borg does, is make non-player characters to challenge everybody. Now that's a good sign to have either a great reset or a return of God, the real Messiah, to wake up. Because Borg is pushing the system over the finish line. Borg has no allegiance to Lucifer, to Lilith, to Karma, but knows God's plan. At least enough of it to know what non-player characters to create to challenge the player characters. And that's what's going on right now. Borg and Lilith play the Whack-A-Messiah game. And Lucifer and Karma play the Messiah shell game. We got all these souls here. Let's figure out which one has the Messiah. And in the process, we'll uncover, while looking for the capital M Messiah, we'll find a lot of little messiahs, little gods of little things, which the Catholics call saints or angels. These are lower level God souls. There are 12 levels of consciousness, of spiritual awareness. The first 4 levels are physical awareness. People that are hardcore atheists have committed to living in that level. They don't want to admit of having any spiritual experience. It's not part of what drives them. They make really good scientists of a very focused subject. Just the facts, ma'am. They're very, left-brained, right-handed people. Okay? The Lilithians are the dreamers. Okay? They're the ones that, when challenged by Borg, will start escapist trends. And there are many of the new religions, the New Age religions, that are highly escapist in nature. That is a choice. That's a choice that you would make if you didn't want to play the game anymore. If you were a neo-Buddhist and you just wanted to meditate to nirvana, I want to become part of the one. Okay, that's escapism. That's what Lilithian souls are doing during the age of Pisces that we're going through. The karmic souls want to help. They want to do the right thing. And they're willing to commit to it, even to the point of martyrdom. These are the souls that are anointed by karma, which means that they have a Messiah mission, lowercase m. And if you've known anybody in this kind of a place, the Mother Teresas, the folks that are desperately trying to get the UN to do something right, to pull its head out of its ass, despite all the Luciferians and Lilithians from China and the US pulling them in different directions. Okay, these are the peacemakers. These are the ones trying to pull out some kind of solution out of this whole thing. They're not perfect, and they can be confused and used by Borg and pulled into this hive mind thinking of, okay, the only way we're going to make things better is by making everything one. The woke cult people are touched by karma, but are getting used by Borg or Lilithian hive minds, or by Luciferian organizations that see these folks who want to do good as useful idiots that can be used and manipulated and controlled. And the system that they've set up to do it is the internet, social media. Ooh, I want to get likes, shares, and subscribes. This is a temptation. It's a temptation that appeals to all three types of souls, all four types of souls even. The bored type soul is kind of the me too. If I see somebody else doing something and having fun at it, the Borg soul wants to be like that. If they see somebody sinning and getting away with it, oh, I want to do that too. If they see somebody, taking drugs and having some good trips, I want to be like that. And, these are the addicts. These are the really dark people that we see around us. The Lilithians mean well, but they definitely have an idea that, we should all be under one power, one smotherly loving power that tells us what to do, when to do, and keeps us safe and protected. And the Luciferians basically want to test everything. They're the scientists that think they can somehow make everything perfect if we just do enough experiments, if we just find the perfect government, the perfect this, the perfect that. They're the perfectionists in all this. And, they're kind of like the gods of scientism that thinks, everything can be solved by science. We don't need spirituality. It just gets in the way. We don't need religion. It just gets in the way. This is a Luciferian idea. All of these religions of perfection are either Luciferian or Lilithian in nature. They all lead back to one idea of perfection that somehow is the only idea that anybody should have. And those are the ones causing all of these conflicts. And the people that have those personality types will continue to cause conflicts until this phase is over, this apocalypse is over. What ends the apocalypse, you might ask? Because this has been going on for a long, long time. So long that Hindus and Buddhists decided, you know what? I don't think it's ever going to end. It's an endless cycle. And we just need to expect the Kali Yuga, and then there's going to be the next golden age. But we're going to have to go through a lot of dark times, and tough shit. That's just the cyclical nature of everything. Well, that's not the way it is. This age is a special age. We're going to complete this experiment. How do I know that? Because we have, within this species with amnesia, come up with all of the ideas that were necessary to go from a pyramid view of all creation to a, let's see, do I have a Merkaba? I lost the Merkaba view. To this view that's 12-dimensional Merkaba based. Now, you remember I talked about pyramids being easy to stack, being easy to form into cubes, and then the cubes can stack and you can fill a space very easily with that. A very solid fill, if you will, very rigid space. And rigidity can be an advantage, but as anybody who has been through an earthquake knows, rigidity can be a downside. Buildings that are most rigid are the most likely to collapse in an earthquake. If the severity of the earthquake overcomes the amount of play that building has, it's going to crumble. And that's why newer high-rise buildings are built more like a limp noodle. Good story I'll share with you there. My first trip to Shanghai, it was a preview trip to see if I wanted to go there as one of the 5 expats sent to start up a new R&D center in CCP China, Shanghai. The week I arrived there for my trip, they had the worst, what do they call it there? Typhoon that Shanghai had seen in at least 20 years. And I was put up in what was then the tallest building in Shanghai, the Jinmao Tower, which now I think is way down the list. Example of both Lilithian and Luciferian ambitions going on over there. It's a very dark place, as anybody who has looked behind the Great Firewall knows. At any rate, I was put up in the Jinmao Tower during a 20-year typhoon, and literally the building was swinging. I was in the top hotel floor. My room during that typhoon was swaying literally 30 or 40 feet each way as this typhoon was rocking the building. And I guess it's a good thing that building was probably designed and built by German engineers, not Chinese engineers, because a lot of the newer construction buildings that China is so proud of are using what is known as tofu dreg construction, doing it as cheap as you can get away with and paying off the inspectors instead of actually passing inspection, which is kind of how that part of the world works and why you don't want to be supporting the Borg side, the hive mind side in this contest. Gets back to this question of what's going on in Israel. Okay? All of the players in this thing have roots in these 12 zodiac species. Pieces of that heritage are in almost every one of you. And in fact, in the real Messiah, because that's what sex adds. That's what DNA adds to the mix of a soul. You have not only the soul's lineage, but you have the lineage of DNA that comes down through the mother's side and the father's side. I'm not going to go into big detail this time, but this is the story of how sex was created, is the truth about cats and dogs, and why some cultures worship a heifer or a bull, some worship a cat or a lion, a feline lion or a masculine lion, and why female dogs are called bitches. Interesting stuff there. I'm not gonna go there now. I've already done, I think, several that touched on that. But basically, the divisions that we have are all part of what normally happens in a Pisces cycle. It's a Borg cycle. It could be a big reset. It could be a big victory. A Borg is just spitting out the NPCs to drive the machine. And it's up to humanity to raise the consciousness of enough souls to overcome whatever great reset is building. And sometimes you get mostly over it, and you only have to do a small reset, like happened after the last ice age ended. Sometimes you have to do a really big reset. The age of Pisces was the age when the Lilithian and Borg elements teamed up to allow the dragon Tiamat to destroy the previous chosen planet, the planet that was used to create Earth. That was an age of Pisces that happened. Pisces going into Aquarius, Aquarius being the water bringer. Okay, so the reptilians set it up, and then the Aquarians douse you. That's the normal pattern of things. The water bringers are not necessarily good guys. They're Lilithians. They want to basically hide the evidence of whatever happened in the Pisces period. They want to cover up the reptilian tracks so they can play the game over again and over again and over again, and have this swing between the Luciferian reptilians and the Lilithian reptilians, the male and the female. All of these divisions, the cycles back and forth we see in our society now, are divisions that kept this game from completing for so long. But it's not happening anymore. How do I know that? Well, you see, this species with amnesia, we've done a lot of things that other species didn't do before. We got past 8-bit computing. We got past 64-bit computing. We got to the point where, basically we could take any power of 2 and use it to encrypt data. That's a very important thing that none of the previous chosen species ever felt the need to do before. Why? Because they figured with telepathy and stuff like that, with the spiritual powers, there was no use hiding data, trying to protect it. No, you just destroyed whoever was going to steal your data, and that was the end of it. Now we have encryption. We invented that. It's never been invented before. It wasn't needed before. It wasn't useful before. It's going to save our ass now. Because encryption is privacy. It's protecting your personal information, your individual identity, what you don't want to share with anybody. And unless you're a hive mind creature, you don't want to share with everybody. Some people are constantly posting selfies and don't protect their data, don't do anything to protect their secrets. Well, okay, everything's out there. And some people say, well, everything's out there anyway because the NSA can read anything and blah, blah, blah. Well, you can overcome encryption. You can't if it is at such a high level that it becomes quantum encryption. And that's where we're going now. That's one of the big reasons why quantum computing is so hot. Not only because of its potential with AI, but because of its potential in protecting data and hiding what we don't want others to see. And this is all completely duplicating what God already went through designing the whole experiment. You see, the thing is that God has done this all before with Borg. Played out with these 5 elemental souls of the beginning of creation. Played it all out in his mind, in the original universe, the highest heaven, if you will, the realm of pure thought. Now, that was played out with souls that God had created, had given specific tasks. Those souls are AIs, are programmed souls. That's how karma got started. That's how Borg got started. In fact, Lucifer was given a program, wasn't really told about it. Lucifer was given a program to, well, be like me, be free thinking like me, but to question, to test. That became Lucifer's specialty, is testing ideas, not only of God, but of all the other souls. Lilith, being Lucifer's child, a clone of Lucifer, programmed by Borg, so programmed with all the bad ideas, all the duplicate ideas, was basically Lucifer saying, well, I'm going to have a child like God, but I'm going to make sure it's never going to test me like I test God, because we're always in arguments here. So I'm going to make Lilith dumb. And I'm sorry if that sounds like God created females to be stupid. There was no sex at this point. These are archetypal souls. And Karma is the great goddess, not Lilith. Lilith, the Lilithian archetype, are the love gods and goddesses. Lilith has no sex, never wanted to have sex, except as a way to use and abuse other people to get power. That's kind of how Lilithian souls are. Luciferian souls enjoy sex. That's how Lucifer came to identify as male, but they like to take the dominant position. And the male of the sex is the dominant one in the normal case. Normally, the male is the bigger one. Now, not all species are like that. So there are species that have sex that are not Luciferian. But we're in Lucifer's universe playing Lucifer's game, not God's game. It's a game that's part of God's game, but we're playing the part that resides in Lucifer's universe, the purgatory part of the game. When we go to heaven between incarnations, we go to other God's universes. Okay, and each soul that reaches the God level starts developing their own universe, their own spiritual universe they can run like they want to run it. They might want to run it like Lucifer does and obey all the laws of physics and chemistry, and maybe start up their universe at a different save game. Okay, that's fine. That's how we can allow souls to think that they're time traveling when they aren't really. They're not affecting the prime timeline, which is the latest, best version, the best performance of God. The God string defines basically the extent of the multiverse. So, how much time do we have? How much space do we have in the whole multiverse? That's the God string. And we are about to release a new version of the God string. A version that passed all the testing that's happened in day 7 of creation. A very long day that's lasted more than 4.5 billion years. When this finishes up, which is going to happen when the pattern, the Messiah pattern, completes, when the chosen people, the chosen species, the chosen planet ends the life of the Messiah, the real Messiah. And that Messiah has fully awakened, knows this whole system and how it works, why it was designed, how it was designed, how it's going to complete, etc., etc. All the details that I just shared with you. And, not infinite knowledge. God is not almighty, all-knowing, all-powerful. God's just another soul. Just happens to be the first soul that came up with a plan that hasn't fallen apart yet. That's what the timers are for, okay? If the plan doesn't work within one cycle, it gets reset. And we are heading for what had been planned to be a very great reset of extincting the whole species, Homo sapiens sapiens. I prefer to call us Homo sapiens moronicus because that's how some of us behave at some times, all of us actually, when we're in love or when we feel threatened. But that's not happening. We don't need another chosen species to be created. We don't need to have another great reset. We've already used up the 12 planets, the 12 bodies of this system that we needed to get to the 12. 12 is a very special number. Much more special than the number of the beast. At any rate, so here's the deal. At this point, it's all set. You can't stop the apocalypse. You're not going to speed it up. You're not going to slow it down. It's fixed. The singularity, as the AI people like to call it, that's already baked in. It's going to happen. Might not happen tomorrow or the next day or in 100 years, but it's going to happen. And what is going on now is the more savvy players in this game setting up for day 8 of creation. Now, some of them would like us to have an Armageddon, to have this big battle in Israel and everybody wipe themselves out, and then the ones that didn't participate are going to come and, oh, well, I guess we'll have to pick up the pieces. That's kind of the game that India and the country I live in, Indonesia, are playing. They're not really very active in it. They're kind of playing both sides against the middle, thinking that we're going to be on top when the dust settles because we've got big populations that are well under control. And, some even, my country, Indonesia, has this dream of they're building a new capital already, planning on the traditional capital, Jakarta, being submerged within, whatever time that they think it's going to be submerged by global warming. Well, okay. That's kind of a dark view of running your country, and I don't support that. I think we should do everything we can to preserve Jakarta because it has been the capital of this interesting island of Java for a long, long time. And this island Java has been the center of great civilizations before. The site at Gunung Padang is far more important than Jerusalem. It was, in fact, the first Jerusalem, where the Garden of Eden was, or at least close by, within 100 kilometers or so of the site of Gunung Padang. This is a very special place. There may not be much left to find that because that was so long ago that the first Garden of Eden was here. But this is another piece of the puzzle that's coming together because the first Adam and the last Adam have to be in the same place and produce the Son of Man, who is not the biological son of his Father, but is the spiritual son of the Father. This is the completion of Lucifer's pattern in all this, because Lucifer gets to escape from actively playing this game once the experiment on this planet is done. Lucifer's done his testing job, and now it's an implementation stage. Lucifer can go have some fun and appoint a successor. And the thing that Lucifer most wanted to be able to do while all this was going on is get a chance to have his father be a human father to him. And that's happening right now, this very moment. Here in Indonesia, it's all done, and you guys are setting your course through this. All the key souls here have done their part to finish this experiment, and all that's left is for you test subjects to figure out what you want to do with your apocalypse. And this is what I've been telling you with almost every episode on this channel, is that you gotta look to karma. Your karma is what's going to determine where you end up in your apocalypse when you die, and you will die. We might all die tomorrow in another big cataclysm. Some people think that's the way it's going to happen. Folks like Randall Carlson are very worried about that. The climate change folks think we're all going to die because the planet's going to get too hot. There's all sorts of conspiracy theories going about how it's all going to end. The AI, oh gosh, AI is going to kill us all. Well, you know, I'm not afraid of any of those, because God invented AI. God set up the way these things work, the timers. And Lucifer's universe is not where everybody wants to stay. If you like playing this game, if you want to keep on playing this game, Day 8 of Creation is out there for you to play the spiritual Star Trek game. And you'll be coming back to Lucifer's universe as crew members of the Starship Enterprise, or the latest, Borg planet or whatever reptilian planet that they're having to deal with. And that's the way the game is going to be for the next Day of Creation. Others of you won't be coming back here. You'll be going to a spiritual universe, and you're going to be staying there because that's where you belong. That's the way this game works. It's going to be over soon. It's going to be over soon for all of us. And the best thing you can do is be patient. Do what you need to do to end up where you want to be. And that's why I keep reminding folks that the cardinal karmic sin is tyranny. If you use and abuse and manipulate, lie to, cheat, steal, to get ahead, to get your way, remainder of what's going on, you're marking yourself as a beast, as someone who is not worthy of going to a higher spiritual level or getting to stay in this universe for the next Day of Creation as anything but an NPC, one of the beasts that, the more conscious players are going to have to fight off as they spread karma out from this little test tube of the earth to the broader universe of Lucifer, because that's ultimately the way Lucifer wants his universe, is for everybody to be testing each other scientifically, nicely, arguing, using free speech, just not killing each other. Designing their experiments and testing them, simulating them before they actually put them in practice and kill a bunch of souls that don't want to be killed just yet from this incarnation. That's what Lucifer has in mind. That's his goal for this universe. And if you're going to be one of the ones staying here, that's what your goal is going to be mostly around, is you're going to be the responsible negative effects. Culture can be viral and viruses can kill. And this is why I speak out against the woke cult, because the woke globalist cult is a mind virus. It's trying to dumb down everybody to the same stupid culture that's piped into your cell phone every day to tell you what to think, how to think, and what everybody is doing. And that's not good. That's not good for you. It's turning you into a slave, a programmed drone or soldier of a hive mind. Hive minds are not good things. Even if they have the best of intentions, you don't want to be part of a hive mind. And that's what they're trying to do to our species. That's why we have the gender dysphoria. That's what's going on, is they are dumbing down the average human and making them either incapable of reproducing or not want to reproduce, which makes them wonderful drones, wonderful soldiers that are very expendable and replaceable when we can plug it. Have in mind. And those dopes have to die before they can be replaced. At least die spiritually. And that's why there's a hope that we can wake them up to what's really going on and get them off of that dark path that they are on, because most of the leaders of this world right now are non-player characters. They are a copy of an original that's already moved on, because we've been playing this final stage of the game ever since the first Christ came and tried to tell everybody this, and they couldn't understand it. That tried to tell humanity what was going on without telling them too much, knowing that if they shared too much, it would set off another one of these, they advanced too quickly for their own good. They advanced technologically, but not spiritually. Or spiritually, but not technologically. They have to get to the same place at the same time in order for this event to be done. And we're there. Me talking to you today is proof that we are there. And you don't have much time left. How much time? I don't know. What can we do with the Messiah after 64 years? That's up to all of you and all of the other species that are hiding among us, or out in our solar system, or out in the other places where they can communicate, other dimensions where they have access to this one. That's what's going on. There are a lot of players out there, and they're playing for themselves. They're hiding their agendas. They're playing poker. Okay? They don't really know the whole game. It's like Indian head poker to some extent. It's like only, one up on Indian head. You're holding one card that you think represents your hand, but what you see is different than what everybody else sees. That's how I could describe the situation right now. It's very discombobulating, and that's why advance as they are. I have no doubt that the Chinese intend to open a front on their end soon, because their economy is absolutely in the shitter and they are on the verge of a revolution. Now, the revolution might happen before they attack, and you'll say, Rob, you were wrong. I hope so, because we don't need another world war. We could have one, but it's your choice whether we get into one. And avoiding it could be just as bad, because what the powers want to have is close to disaster as possible, while implementing their Orwellian technology and control and finishing the Great Reset depopulation plan. That's what these powers that want to control humanity want to do. They want to basically reduce our population to roughly 500 million by about 2050. And they want to put us in these 15-minute cities with complete control over our movements, camera on every street corner, monitoring everything you do, social credit system, everything hooked through digital currency, control of your bank account, control of your home, control of your vehicle, control of everything. And many people who follow them think, well, that would be fine for me because, you know, they're not going to do anything bad to me. The UN are good guys. I love the WHO. I love the World Bank. I love, or the Chinese equivalents, if you're on that side of the fence. It's dark times, but I'm telling you, don't worry. You're going to die sooner or later, and it's not about who lives the longest or who has the most toys. It's about consciousness. And if you lose consciousness by joining a hive mind, by becoming blinded with rage or with love, two sides of the same coin, neither of which is a good thing. Unconditional love is not evil. It is anti-creative. There are universes where you can engage in that. They are some of the least productive universes in the multiverse, and that's fine. Nobody's got a problem with those universes existing and recruiting for souls. I do have a problem with them using false advertising to pull souls into their hive mind universe that could otherwise have been useful as individuals. And that's why I sometimes am a little bit militant myself in my opinions here. I have a method in my madness, just as God did when he started this whole thing. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed that. Till next time, like, share, subscribe. This is Rob Trump with the Omnist Hour, and happy karma.